Thank you for coming to my channel. You are here for the tutorial for the Christmas in the City album. This is the sticker page, just to kind of give you an idea of what the paper is. I'm going to go ahead and start with the tutorial. There is a walkthrough, and so I will link that down below so you can take a look at that. I think it's going to be easiest if we start with all of the paper cutting and then do the scoring and then put everything together. So one thing you'll want to do if you're not familiar with the lay flat method, I will link that also in the description box so that you can find my tutorial for the lay flat method. Just as a heads up, I will go ahead and give you the dimensions of the chipboard and the cardstock that I'm using for the cover. So you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that measure 9 3/4 by 8 1/4, okay? And our spine is going to be 2.5 by 8 1/4. So those are the chipboard pieces that you need. When you wrap your chipboard, we're going to add some 2 inches to each of the length and the width as we wrap them, except for the spine gets an extra little bit. So let me give you those dimensions. So to wrap the chipboard, you're going to need 2 that are 11 3/4 by 10 1/4. I'll put this here. I don't know if you'll be able to read it very well, but the mat is two of them at 11 3/4 by 10 1/4. So you'll notice that we added 2 inches to the length and the width. Okay. Now to cover the spine, you're going to need a piece that's 5.5 by 10 1/4. And then for the inside where we cover it, I don't necessarily care if this goes over the paper that we just matted the chipboard. Some people like it to go over so that it lays flat, but we're going to cover that anyway, so it doesn't bother me. So I went ahead and did 5 by 8 1/8. So it doesn't go all the way top to bottom. You'll have about 1/16 of an inch on the top and the bottom. And then the last piece for the cover is 5.5 by 8, and that's going to be the hinge, and I will score that with you. Okay, so again, these are the measurements. If you have a notebook handy, you might want to jot those down or freeze your, go ahead and pause the video so you can write it down, take a picture. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and give you the link for the lay flat method if you are not familiar with it. Okay. So there are 4 base pages in the book, and so you'll need 4 pieces that are 9.5 by 8 and 4 pieces that are 10 by 8. And then I already gave you the measurement for the hinge. That was 5.5 by 8. So I'm going to move those to the side. I am doing a flap on the front of each page, and so I have the uniquely, this is from Country Craft Creations, the Uniquely Creative metal dies. Okay, and so I took the 2 dies out that I want to use, one for the flap and one to mat it. So the whiter one is going to be the one that's the base page or the base flap. And then I'm going to use this to mat it, and I'll have to do some adjusting with the how long it is, but that's not a problem. Okay, so 4, you can do any die that you want. You could do a regular rectangular piece of paper and just corner around it. You could get out your punches and do a decorative border, but I am using the Uniquely Creative dies. Okay, so 4 of these. Okay, we'll go start with the front of page 1. So you'll need one that's 3.5 by 9. A 6.5 by 8, and 2 of them that are 4 by 5. Okay, I'll kind of pause just so you have time to write. The back of page 1, you'll need 2 that are 4 by 8, 2 that are 4 by 8.5, 2 that are 5.5 by 1.5, and 1 that is 3 3/4 by 1.5. Okay, let's move on to page 2. Page 2, you're going to need 2 pieces that are 4.5 by 8, and two that are 4 1/8 by 3 1/2. The back of page 2, pretty easy. You need two that are 8 by 6. Page 3, the front. One that is, well, you really need two that are 4 by 5, but we were going to use them in different directions. So I wrote it separately. So I said one 4 by 5 and one 5 by 4. Same thing, just so that you know we're going to use them in different directions. And a piece that is 5 by 2. The back of page 3, an 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, and one 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. Page 4 front, a 10 1/2 by 4 and another 4 by 5. And finally, the back of page 4, you need a 5 1/2 by 8 and a 4 by 9. So these measurements are for the pages. I haven't done the front and back cover yet. We'll do that after we've done our pages, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is our scoring after you have everything cut. Now I have pre-scored just to make it easier for me so that I don't make any mistakes as I'm giving you the measurements. So let's start with the 4 base pages. So get your 9 1/2 by 8s and your 10 by 8s. I'm just going to score one with you. The one that's 9 1/2 by 8, you do nothing. You don't score it at all. And then the one that is 10 by 8, you place 10 inches across the top and score at half. Okay, so you'll do that 4 times. The hinge piece, we're going to take the 5 1/2 by 8. We're going to place the 5 1/2 inches across the top, and we score it every 1/2 inch. On the hinges that I do, I don't have any excess on the right and the left. I start with a hinge and end with a hinge, so there's no excess on the sides. So we are going to start with 1/2 and then go every 1/2 inch. So 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2, 3, 3 1/2, 4, 4 1/2, and 5. Okay, so we're doing all the scoring. So we're not going to do any burnishing quite yet. So the 4 flaps, whatever you're choosing to do, whatever the measurements are, these just happen to be about 5 3/4 by about 7 1/4, but you can make them any size you want. So once I cut them out with the die from Uniquely Creative, I placed the long side across the top and I made 2 score marks, one at 1/2 and one at 3/4. And I did that to all 4 of them so that we have a little bit of a gusset so that it can go over our page once we put some elements on there. All right, so I have everything separated and I have sticky notes on them with a clip, so that's how I can keep everything organized if you're looking for a way. All right, so we are going to take the 2 pieces that are 4 by 5 and they get scored the same way. So you're going to place the 5 inches across the top and it's going to become a pocket. And so we'll do 1/2 on each end. So that's 1/2 and 4 1/2. And then you turn it so that the 4 inches is across the top and you score at 1/2. You'll do that to both pieces that are 4 by 5. Okay. You're going to need your 3 1/2 by 9. This also becomes, there's a lot of pockets in this because I want to stuff it with a lot of things. The 3 1/2 by 9. So you'll place the long side across the top, the 9 inches, score at 1/2 and at 8 1/2. Turn it so that it's the 3 1/2 across the top, score at 1/2. And then finally, you're going to take the piece that is 6 1/2 by 8 and score that with the 6 1/2 inches across the top at 1/2. go ahead and put these all together, put my clip on there. We're ready for the back of page 1. So I'll start with the two that are 4 by 8.5. Score at, with the 8.5 across the top on both of them, score at half for both pieces that are 4 by 8.5. We'll do the same thing for the pieces that are 4 by 8. We'll place the 8 inches across the top, score at 1/2, both of them. Okay, you should have two pieces that measure 5.5 by 1.5. Place the 5.5 across the top, make 2 score marks, 1/2 and 5/8. So we have a little bit of a gusset. Again, that's 5.5 across the top, score at 1/2 and 5/8. So I am going to pre-score the mechanism to keep the, well, like not the flaps, but the closure. I'm going to score it, and I might have to adjust it once I put the book together. But this is the piece that is 1.5 by 3 3/4. 3 3/4 go across the top, and I'm going to score at 1/2 and at 2 1/8. And just know that I might need to change that a little bit. It's a slider to keep our belly band closure closed. All right, let's move on to page 2. So get your 4.5 by 8 and your 4 1/8 by 3.5 pieces. We'll start with the small ones. So you're going to place the 4.5. Oh, this is not the small. These are the 4.5 by, 4 1/8 by 3.5. Sorry, 4 1/8 by 3.5. And we're making 2 score marks on these also, at 1/2 and at 5/8. Now these become flaps. We might end up, corner rounding or getting a decorative punch of some sort, but for right now, we'll just do the scoring at 1/2 and 5/8. The pieces that are 4.5 by 8, place the 4.5 inches across the top and score at 1/2 on both pieces. Now we're going to end up having one going each direction, but it doesn't matter when you score right now, even though they look like they're on the same side. Okay, let's move on to the back of page 2, which is super easy. These become little cards, but we're going to glue them so that it's on 3 sides so that we can tuck something behind them. So you'll just put the 8 inches across the top and score at 4, right in half for both pieces. And we will be using seam binding to keep these closed. I've got to remember that when I'm gluing. I should probably write myself a note just so I don't forget. Seam binding. Okay. Page 3. The small piece, these are all going to be, this will be in the center of a page. So that's why they're not as wide as the actual page. This is the 5 by 2. Again, it's going to become a pocket. So put the 5 inches across the top, score at 1/2 and at 4.5. Place the 2 inches across the top, score at 1/2. Okay, now we have a 4 by 5 and a 5 by 4. So one of them, we're going to place the 5 inches across the top and just score at 1/2. And then that's it. And the other one, we're going to do a little bit more scoring. So this time you can still put the 5 inches. Let's put that across the top. Score at 1/2 and at 4.5. Rotate 1 time so the 4 inches is across the top. Score at 1/2. Okay, page 3, the back. take your 8.5 by 5.5. This will become an angled pocket. I hope this turns out. I haven't decided really how I'm going to do this yet, but we'll figure it out. I may have to do a little adjusting. So I have the 5.5 inches across the top, and I'm scoring at just 1/2. And I'm going to rotate it one time for the long side to be across the top, and I'm going to score at 1/2. And the 5.5 by 5.5, we do the same thing. We're going to place a 5.5 across the top, score just 1/2 on one side, rotate it once, score at 1/2. So the scores are only on two sides. Okay, we're on the last page, page 4. There's a belly band with a pocket, so we can tuck things underneath. So the long piece, put the 10.5 inches across the top, score at 1/2 and at 10. The 4 by 5 piece, place the 5 inches across the top, score at 1/2 and at 4.5. Rotate it once, score at 1/2. And finally, we'll do the back of page 4. Yes, another pocket. The 4 by 9 piece. So the 9 inches goes across the top. Yeah, score at 1/2 and at 8.5. Rotate it once, score at 1/2. Like I said, lots of pockets. And the piece that is 5.5 by 8, we'll just score once with the 5.5 inches across the top. We'll score at 1/2. Okay, so the next part then is to go through and do our burnishing. So I am going to start with the pages so that we can get those made. Let me get my mat here. And I have a scoring. I have certain ones that I use to score, certain ones to burnish. Oopsie. Okay. All right, so the base pages, we only did one score, and we're going to go ahead and burnish that 1/2 inch mark. This is the 10 by 8 piece, all 4 of them. I am going to slightly miter this so that when I attach the other page, we don't have any overhang. So just a slight one, not much at all. And I am going to go ahead and complete the pages and the hinge before we do any other burnishing. So do that to all 4 of your 10-inch pieces. I didn't have to do that, but I'm going to place the 9.5 inch piece underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure everything lines up. Now you'll have a little excess. We'll take care of that. Okay, so I kind of pat it so that it goes all the way to the bottom. And then I'm going to put glue on that 1/2 inch. I'm going to get my glue ready. All right, so I'm going to just hold it down here, put my glue on. My glue must be getting low. Okay, I'm going to bring that over. Wipe off the excess. Give it a good burnish. Now we're going to trim the end. Now our pages are supposed to be 9.5 inches long. So I'm going to place this in the trimmer, and you can see that you'd have just a hair left over. So I just put it in my trimmer, put it at 9.5. I'll show you. Hope you can see that. I'm putting it at 9.5. And you take off that little piece of excess. Okay, do that for all 4. So that you have 4 pages. So I've already done the other ones. Now on the other ones, I didn't miter the 1/2 inch, just so you know. I left them full, but then I had to go back and trim the ends. Okay, so there's my 4 pages. The hinge, if you're not familiar, I'm not real good at, it's not that I can't explain it, but I just kind of go and score everything one direction, then I go back and score it the opposite direction. So I'm going to, not score, but burnish. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish all these score marks, just going one direction first. Making sure that when I burnish that I don't get off my measurements. I want to make sure that they line up, the paper lines up underneath as I fold it over. To me, this is just easier. It's going to kind of curl on us as we go. That's okay. I'm going to turn it this way now and go the opposite direction. Almost done going one direction. And this is the Artisan. It's the green. I don't know the official name of it, but I will put it in the description. Okay, so it's curling because we did it on one side. So now I'm going to flip it and just burnish it the reverse side so that they're easy to work with. And I'm just going to use my fingers. So what we do then is we glue the first 2 rectangular pieces together, then we skip one, that's our gusset. Then we glue the next 2 together, skip the next one, that's a gusset, so forth and so on, okay? So let's go ahead and do the first 2. I like to make sure I get it on the ends because I want it to have a nice seal. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over. And we burnish real well. We want those to stick together. And again, I really want to make sure the ends get burnished real well so it looks nice and neat. Okay, this glue will dry clear. Okay, so there's our first hinge. It'll be like this. Now, some people take a sliver off of each end. This one on the left is fine, but if I'll show you what I'm talking about in case you want to do this. Just to make sure that your hinge lays flat. So you can place the first and the last rectangle in your trimmer and just shave off like a tiny, tiny bit. Like a real tiny bit. Okay, so I just took off a hair just to make sure that there's no overhang. Okay, so I have one hinge. I skip the next rectangle and then I glue the next 2 together. Some people use their score tape, and I used to, but I've decided that glue is easier for me, so you do what's easiest for you. Okay, I'm going to pinch those together. Give it a burnish. Real firm. Because it's the Artisan, you can be kind of, not rough, but you can be assured that it's not going to rip on you. So now we have our second hinge, okay? 1 gusset, 2 hinges. Skip the next one, then we're going to glue the following 2 together. I want to make sure that we get enough to give it a good stick. Okay. Pinch those two together. Give it a burnish. If you have any excess glue, wipe that up. I just scratched myself, that hurt. Okay, so now we have 3 hinges and 2 gussets, and we're going to finish it up. So we're going to skip the next one, and we're going to glue the last 2 together. So if you trimmed a little, I want to make sure that I didn't burnish that well enough. Hold on. I still don't like how it's, I want it to be really sealed. Okay, last one. So if you did trim a little bit off the edge, this is the side you want to put glue because it's a little bit shorter. Fold that over. Did I put glue on the wrong side? Nope, I did it right. Okay, I'm going to burnish that. And that is all we have to do for our hinge, except for glue it in the book. So you can decide to put your pages on and then put your elements, like your flaps and stuff. Or you can put your flaps on and then put your pages in, which is what I'm going to do. I think. Maybe not. No, I might put my pages in first, actually. Okay, so I just give it a burnish on, have those hinges go back and forth so that they are trained to turn those pages nice and smoothly. All right, like so. Okay, ta-da. And what we'll do then is we will center that right here. Now you can decide if you want to put your pattern paper on first before you put the hinge on. And you can either use glue on the back of this, you can use a piece of score tape or a thicker piece of score tape. And we'll center it top and bottom, side to side. Okay, I'll go back and do that in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and finish my scoring. I'll put my pages there. All right, so these are the flaps. We have 2 score marks. So we'll do both of them. This one has a gusset of 1/4 of an inch. Some of them are an 1/8. Those are kind of tricky. It's kind of hard to score burnish sometimes. Okay, so we want a 1/4 inch gusset. Now we don't have to miter these because they're not at the top or the bottom of the page. They're in the center, so it doesn't matter. We don't have to do any trimming there. So let's go ahead and do that to all the rest of the pages. Let's see, there we go. Even the 4th is sometimes tricky. Okay, there's the second one. I'm gonna do one more. Okay, third one. Maybe I should do the, I don't know. I don't know if there's a trick or not to do which way is easier to do the large one or the small one first. And last one. kind of use my fingers and try to guide it a little bit more when I'm folding that over. Okay, so there's our 4 flaps for the front of each of our 4 pages. So this will be going down first before we do anything else on the pages. All right, let's go ahead and prep all these flaps that we've done. So pockets, we do the same way. We take out the squares where the lines intersect. There's a square. I take them off at an angle, like so. And then I do miter the top, so I go from the score out at a slight angle. So they look like that. So let's go ahead and do all of those. Miter. Take out the square at an angle. Another one. So then I'll go back and do my burnishing after I do this cutting. Same way, just different size pocket. And this is a flap. I'm going to go ahead and burnish it. And this one goes from the top of the page to the bottom. So this one we do want to miter the 1/2 inch. Again, just to make sure you don't see any overhang when we attach it, if we don't get it on exactly right. Let's get rid of those scraps. Ouch. All right, burnish away, people. I really like these Teflon burnishing, the ones that are angled like this. It's what's it called? Dress My Craft, I think is what it's called. They have them at the store, Country Craft Creations. So if you have not used this one, that's my favorite for burnishing. I wouldn't use it for scoring, obviously. Wouldn't work out right, but the burnishing part, fabulous. So when we put these pockets, you can always do a thumb hole if you want to. Just a little heads up for that. You could even use a border punch of some sort and give it some detail at the top. Okay, so I'm going to put my sticky note back on and move those to the side. Okay, the back, let's do our scoring. Our burnishing. I use those words interchangeably, but I really shouldn't. Okay, so again, these are going not from end to end in our book, so we don't have to miter, but if you want to, you can. If you want to put some sort of corner or angles at the bottom, I might end up doing that, but for right now, I'll just go ahead and do all the burnishing. And then burnish the 8-inch pieces. Okay, what do we have next? The belly band closure. So this is where the 1/8 comes in. These are kind of tricky because it's not very much of a gusset, but you got to get them folded. You need a little bit of space in order to have it close nicely without any ripples, if that makes sense. You don't want it to buckle. So you do need a little gusset like so. And I'm just kind of using my hands to do it. It's just easier. Once I get it lined up, then I use my burnishing tool. Okay, now I am going to go ahead and burnish this. Again, I might have to adjust. Let me just kind of show you what we're going to be doing. This is going to be a sliding closure, so I want to make sure that this goes. Yep, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And we'll end up gluing these two together. Okay, page 1, the back is burnished. Page 2, the front. Again, we have small gussets. So let's do both of the score marks. Again, I just sometimes kind of bend it with my fingers where the score is, and then I go with my burnishing tool to go over it. I usually have better luck that way. Yeah. Okay. Line that up better. There we go. Okay, looks good. These do go top to bottom. So on the 4.5 by 8 pieces, go ahead and miter on the 1/2 inch. And then we can burnish. So this is like the assembly line method. A lot of times when I do my books, I just do 1 page at a time and kind of plan as I go. This one I tried to think ahead and get everything ready, so it was a little bit easier. Yeah. Page 2, the back, just fold those in half. Now, if you want to bump this up against your scoreboard and make sure it lines up before you burnish it, that's a good idea, because mine's off a little bit, looks like. There we go. So I'm going to bump it up against there so I can just bring this to the side and make sure it lines up. Back of page 3, these are mainly pockets. So this is the 5 by 4. So when I say the 5 first, that's the width, and the 4 is the height. Cutting off the square at the angle, or at an angle. This is the 5 by 2. And we don't really need to miter this, but if you want to, you can. It's not going to show because it's at the top of the book and it's centered, so you won't see it if there's any overhang. Okie dokie, let's burnish. Right here. Pockets. We have a pocket on a pocket, and then we have a flap, so we can keep the flap closed by putting something in the pocket. Okay, so this ends up going here. And then this is on top. And so by putting something inside, it will go over the flap and make it stay shut. That's page 3. The back. Okay, this one, I have no idea if this is going to work or how it's going to look, but I'm going to go with it. So this is going to be on the right-hand side. So I want 1 burnish, or 1/2 inch on the bottom and 1/2 inch on the right. I'm going to go ahead and miter those 2 ends, and I'm going to take off the square at an angle, and then my plan is to diagonal cut so it's a triangle. So we can do that next after I'm gonna do the large piece the same way. So I'll just wait and do them at the same time. This one's going to go on the left. So you want a 1/2 inch on the left and a 1/2 inch on the bottom. Miter. And cut out that square. I'll get my trimmer here in just a second. I'm gonna go ahead and burnish first. Okay, and the other one. I have no idea how this is gonna look, friends. You know what, maybe I might do it differently. Let me see, before I cut, if I do this one, you know what? I think I'm gonna do it like this. One side bigger. Okay, I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna burnish it to the opposite side. I'll show you in a second. I'm kind of changing my mind as I go. I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not. I might have to get a page. So now I have the 1/2 inch on the left and the bottom. This one's on the right and the bottom. I'm gonna angle cut and they're gonna overlap just a little bit. We'll see. Let's see if we like it. I don't know if I will, but I'm gonna do it. Okay, so with my 1/2 inches behind, I'm gonna cut on the diagonal to cut off a triangle. So in your cutting channel, go from one corner to its opposite. This cutter's it's gonna be pretty close. Is that up there? Ugh, it's very close. I might have to get a bigger one. I'll do the other one while I have it out. Okay, so with the 1/2 inches cut behind, we're gonna cut that triangle off. So opposite corners in the cutting channel. That one's gonna, okay. So there's one. I'm gonna get a bigger cutter. Okay, so I decided rather than have my angled pocket this direction, I'm going to have it this direction. So I'm going to cut off that triangle on the sides that don't have the 1/2 inch. Okay, so I took that triangle off. So it's going to go like this. So it's kind of off center, but I kind of like it. We may end up cutting off this bottom 1/2 inch if we rest it inside. I don't know yet. We'll find out when we put the thing together. Okay, that's page 3, the front. The back is the belly band. It's going to go in the center of the page so we don't have to miter. But the pocket we will. So your belly band will go this direction on the page. Let's prepare the pocket. You know the drill by now. Angle. Take out the square. Burnish. So I have quite a bit of paper left over from the Artisan. It comes in sheets of 25. So I'll have plenty of leftover paper to do mats and stuff. So I'm not going to give you the measurements of those, just use your scraps. And then what we do is we put this here on the side, and then we'll have a tag coming out. That's for the front. And one more. All right. This is our 5.5 by 8. We will miter. On the 1/2 inch, top and bottom. So this will be a flap on the right And this is going to be a pocket, and we'll keep that flap down with our inserts. Again, you can do a decorative edge when we get there if you want to. Sometimes that adds quite a bit. Just gives it some interest. Okie dokie, that's all I'm gonna do for this. Now I'm going to decide, I think I'll put my pages in first, and then I'll put my flaps on. Okay, all right, let's get that ready. I'm gonna go ahead and put my hinge in the book. Just so you know, I did go ahead and put the pattern paper on. When I do the hinge, I don't go 1/8 of an inch smaller. I go ahead and do the whole 2 1/2, because by the time you add the front and back cover, it does add a little extra room. So I still did 2 1/2 inches, and then I did the 8 1/8 because it's 1/4, 8 1/4 tall. So I just started lately. I was putting glue on the back. I'm going to put a combination of the score tape and the glue so that this kind of flattens out, so that when you go to put it on here, it's not so curly, and you can see if you have equal amount on either side of the hinge. So once I take the backing off, I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of glue also. So I try to get full coverage from the score tape. So let's take off the backing. And I hope my glue is not clogged. I got a new glue thing, and I still have issues with it sometimes, with things getting clogged. I don't know what the dealio is, but all right. Let's see how we do. Just a little bit. See, now I'm pushing down and it's not coming out all the way. I don't get it. What do I do? Okay, anyway, I don't have the time. So I'm just going to center it left and right, top and bottom. Before I push too much, I'm going to go ahead and make sure it is even. That looks about good. So now I'll go ahead and burnish that down in between the hinges and the gussets. And I do want to make sure that it's on there real well. So just take your burnishing tool and get in there and make sure that it's laying down nice and flat, especially the ends here, top and the bottom. All right, any excess, just wipe it off. All right, so that makes it real, it seems like it's on there real tight and snug. Okay, so I am gonna put the pages on next. So when you put the pages on, you do not put the page all the way to the bottom of the hinge. You want it to be able to turn the pages and lay flat. So you do leave about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my placement. So I have about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and, oopsie, I just moved it. You want to make sure it's lined up with your hinge so you don't have any sticking out the top or the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to hold this down. And I'm just going to put glue on the top first if it'll come out. Oh dear Lord, what do I do with this glue issue? There we go. Maybe did it for a second. You don't want to, again, put glue all the way to the bottom. Now it's starting to come out. And if it oozes out, we're just going to wipe it right up. Okay. And then we'll use this page as a guide for all the other ones to make sure that everything's lining up nice and neat. that just a real strong, firm, oof. Okay, so then I'm going to turn this over to this side. I'm going to push the hinges down over here. And so now I'm going to glue this side. I'll put glue on this hinge, but I'm also going to put glue along the bottom. I'm not going to put it on the top in case we want to put something in the top. So line at the bottom. And if you want to put tags in, but you don't want them to go all the way, I'll show you what we're going to do then. Now the glue looks good. You can put glue like, you know, about to here. And then you can put tags in and they won't go all the way to the bottom if you don't want them that long. How's that? Okay. So then we're just going to bring that over. And we just want to give it some time to dry. I always start at the back and go to the front. And where I put the two pieces together, the seam part, I always put to the back. It'll be covered with paper anyway, but just as a precaution. Now this page is not very even, let me tell you that right now. Oh no. That is a bummer, so I'm gonna have to do some adjusting for a second here. To do some scoring a little, or burnishing a little bit differently. Didn't line up like I had wanted. Is that better? A little bit. Yikes, I should have paid more attention. All right, well, it's on there now. So now the rest of them, I'm just gonna line up. Again, I'm not gonna go all the way to the bottom. So when I attach this one, I just wanna make sure that it lines up with this page that we already put down, even though it may not be the straightest. I gotta go with what I started. Okay, I'm gonna push down so that the page doesn't go anywhere. Put glue on the hinge, not all the way to the bottom. Go ahead and lay that down. Okay. Get the excess glue out of there. So some people put pattern paper in their gusset, which is totally fine, but you might want to wait until you have your pages on in case you do get some glue. Then you can always cover it up. Okay. So now we're going to turn this over. Oh, what in the world? I'm not doing a very good job of lining this up, people. So I gotta adjust. I wonder what I'm doing. I don't like that. Yeah, I'm not lining it up very well at all. Huh. I must be moving it without being aware that I am, which is kind of a bummer. Again, I'm not gonna put a tag in that goes all the way to the bottom, so that's why I can put some glue here with my glue. Okay. So I might have to turn the book the opposite direction if I notice that I want, maybe I want that toward the bottom, the ones that are up a little bit higher. They're not evenly spaced top and bottom on mine, and I don't know why. I must have, like I said, shifted it a bit and not even be aware of it. But it's lining up at the bottom. Yeah, I might turn it this way. Yeah, when I'm done, not now. Okay, 2 more pages. Let's see if I can straighten it out a little bit. Okay, not all the way to the bottom. Lining it up here. So I'm going to be very conscientious about not moving anything. Oh, got some oozing out there. That way at least I know that it's getting a good hold if it's going all the way to the edge. And it is lining up on this side, so, oops. Okay, flip it over. Dear Lord. Put your glue on. Okay. And one more. You know, most of the albums that I make are 4 pages. I used to make like 5 and 6, but sometimes I just didn't have enough pictures. But I guess now that I have a grandbaby, I'll have enough. But I've just always been a 4-page album person, I guess. Okay, let's make sure the bottom stays sealed. Okay, one more. And then after this one, we'll determine if I need to turn my book upside down, if it looks better the other direction. Okay, line it up. Ugh, these are not lined up very well. It's going to bother me. Don't tell anybody, and I guess they won't notice. Okay, bring it over. It's lined up good enough, I guess. Ugh. Burnishing time. I'm really giving it a firm burnish because I do want these pages to stay where they're at. And let's flip it over. Yep, this is gonna have to be, I want there to be more space at the top because you'll see that more than the bottom. So that's why I'm gonna flip mine upside down, which is good that I don't have the cover on yet, the decorative paper. Okay. All right. Usually it's the putting the pages in that takes me quite a while anyway. I'm always try to be very careful, and then even so, it does not always turn out the way I want, but that's okay. I say it's okay, but it bothers me. Okay, so now I'm gonna look, and I think I'm gonna want my book this way so I can see more of the top of the book, because down here it goes almost all the way to the bottom. So I see a little glue that I want to clean up. Oh, you know what? I can't, because I closed the bottoms. I would have it upside down if I turn the book. So I'm going to have to live with it this way. Well, sounds something else. I guess it's not horrible. You can still see some of the... It'll be fine. It will be fine. So I'm going to keep it that way. Okay, so there's plenty of space in here so we can add elements to it and add extra mats and different things to hold pictures. So the easiest thing for me to do next is to put these flaps on, and I went ahead and covered them, and you'll notice that the die that I used gives it quite a bit of a border, and I don't really want that. So I'm either going to cut out some elements from the paper or have snowflakes or something around the edge so it looks, you don't notice as much green. So if you have something hanging off the edges, that'll be a little bit easier to hide all that green with. So just like we didn't want to put the page all the way down, I'm going to line up this 1/2 inch at the bottom of the page where it meets at the hinge. So you want to center this top and bottom. And so you might want to take a look. You might want to measure that our pages are 8 1/4. So we want to go 4 1/8 is the center. Okay. So I think I will just kind of put, so I can kind of eyeball it. So I'm going to find the center of this, and I don't even know how wide it is. 5 3/4, is that about right? So 2 1/2, 2 3/4, 2 7/8. Is that what I want? I think so. 2 7/8. Okay, so I'm just going to put a dot where the score is. 2 7/8. Just so I can kind of line up the center. Just put a little dot, and I'm going to do 4 1. Nope, my pages are 8, not, I was thinking of the height of the book. Our pages are 8, so I need to go to 4. Okay, so now I'm just going to line up the dots. So I've already, like I said, put my paper on. I know the order I want them to be. So I'm going to flatten this, and I can see my dot. And it's going to go right like so. And I want to line that right up. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to, don't put any glue on the gusset, just that 1/2 inch. But I'm pressing it down so it's going to be easier for me to see and line up. Okay, where's that dot? There it is. Wait, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so now I want to get rid of that excess glue. And this will be covered on the inside, so if a little glue gets on here, no problem. Okay. And now it is in a position where we put other elements on. It will lay flatter because we've given it a little bit of a gusset. Okay, so I want these all on the front. So now I'm going to turn this one, and the next one I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to center that one. And I'll do that now, and then I'll come back and we'll start putting the elements on. Okay, so behind the scenes, I have put my mat, all my papers on just to make it go faster, and it's easier because we put the pages in the book already if you go ahead and mat them first. So it'll kind of help you to see what kind of pattern paper I put on if you're getting the same collection and you want it to look like mine, or you don't have to. And remember, I still have to put my embellishments on. This is just the matting. All right, so the front of page 1, I should probably have my measurements back out so I can refer to them. So let me get it organized really quick because I took the sticky notes off. One front, one back. So this is what I'm working with now. Front, back, front, back. Okay. So on the front, this is the 3.5 by 9. I'm going to put that down first. As I put it down, I'm going to put it up to, our page didn't go all the way down to the bottom of the hinge. So I'm just going to put it at the bottom of the page, not the bottom of the hinge. Okay. And I can see that something's bumping there. Okay. So it's just a matter of gluing this down. So we'll put glue on the 3 sides, the 3.5 inch sections. And I do like to make sure I get glue in those corners. Okay, and I probably will have a little that spills out the side. So I'm just gonna line that up, side up to the edge of the page. Make sure it goes top and bottom evenly. And I am just gonna make sure that that closes fine. And it does. Okay, now I'm gonna have some glue oozing out. So let me get my tool here and make sure that lays down real well. Okay. Ugh. A little bit of glue there. Okay. That was the 3.5 by 9. So now I'm going to take the 6.5 inch piece that we scored, and I already put paper here because I'm going to, when I flip it over, because I'm going to put these 2 pockets, and I cut down the cut aparts to fit like so. So these are 2 separate pockets, so I had to put this paper down first. And I'm going to go all the way to the edge. You might want to do a dry fit first just to make sure before we attach them. They should bump right up against each other, and they do. Again, you want to give yourself a little bit of space. You don't want to go all the way to the edge. You want to give yourself, about a 1/16-ish to 1/8 inch space so it doesn't get in the way when you open and close the flap. So I'll put this one on the bottom, and I'm leaving myself a little bit of space. Okay. So that should give me, because I went all the way to the bottom, it should touch back to back or side to side when I put the next pocket on. Get those corners. Okay. And then this one right up against it, like so. We want to make sure that they're level on the front right here, and it does, so that worked out well. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up a little bit just so I can make sure that it's level and I can see it. Okay. And I'll go back and make tags, and I have plenty of paper to make little booklets. And when I say little booklets, I'm probably just going to fold a piece of paper in half. That's really all I'm going to do. Like a card, most likely. It does hang over just a hair down here, but not up here. Okay, so then we put this on the far right-hand side all the way to the edge, and we hit, ooh, I can see that hanging off the edge. Oh, what do? Gotta get that glue off there. You go all the way to the edge, and remember, we'll put cards in here that will keep this flap down, and I'll probably go back and maybe add a mat or something, but this has to go down before we put the pattern paper behind the pocket. sure you get it lined up. Using my fingers kind of as a guide to make sure it's at the end. So once you give it a burnish on the outside, we'll go ahead and open that flap and burnish it on the inside. So there's going to be plenty of room to put pictures. So then we're just going to slide this underneath the pocket. And I made it just a little bit. I didn't go all the way to the end of the pocket. That's kind of a waste of paper. And I'll have to lift it up to see if I'm getting it about right. You don't want to go over your score. Okay, so that's going to be that. I really liked the red with the snowflake. That was a good, it wasn't a loud pattern and it wasn't plain, so I wanted to use a lot of it. But I didn't want to overkill either. Now, one of the papers I really liked was the ice skates, and that was behind the cut-aparts, and I'm always leery to use that in case I need those cut-aparts for decorating. So I think I only have one page with that. And remember, there's going to be a walkthrough, so you should probably watch that before this. Before I push down. Yep, that's even. Okay. We don't want it to move on us, so we want to give it the corners a real heavy burnish. Want to glue all the way to the edge. So the harder you push down, the more that glue is going to spread. Okay, so then we'll put tags here and there, and it will stay closed because we'll have heavier cards that hold it down like so. Okay, we'll make them a little bit fancier. Okay, so that is the front of page 1. So let's go to the back. So the back was, oh, this one's got quite a few pieces. So let me show you how I did this. So the 8-inch pieces are going to go down at the bottom. And so we're going to try and do some centering or space them out evenly. And I just did the reverse to kind of give it some interest. But these are going to actually be under these. Okay. And I did those opposite. But we have to put our belly band closures down first before we do the... Actually, it probably doesn't matter because the flaps don't go all the way to the edge. And I haven't done this one yet, but that's going to go right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my belly bands on. So I need to find the center. And remember, it has a little 1/8 inch gusset. So I'm going to put a tick mark at 4 inches. And then I'm just going to eyeball the belly band closure. I'm not going to find the center of that. I should be able to tell pretty well. And once you get one down, you don't have to worry about the other one. You just want to line it up with the one you have down. So then I kind of push it flat so that I just get glue on that 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to center that, go all the way to the edge. Kind of feel with your hand to make sure it's not going over. I need a clean wet wipe. This one's kind of gross. Okay, so then this one I can just lay, again, don't go all the way to the edge, but we want it to line up with this. So it's gonna overlap just a hair, but that helps you line it up. And it may be that you want to go back and corner around these. Sometimes this slider piece is easier to put on if these are rounded. I have found that to be true anyway. Okay. Okay, before you push down, just make sure that it lines up. Okay. So now we want to do, I'm going to do the bottom ones. So these are 4 inches wide and our book is 9.5. So if I see an inch and an inch, that's 2, 8. I'm going to go in an inch on each side, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this down. You could use the grid on your scoreboard also. Come on. And I'll just place it at the 1 inch down at the bottom. Okay. So on the 1/2 inch glue. Now when you do this one, remember the flap, when it comes down, you got to put your paper on the right direction because the image will basically be upside down when you're putting it on. Oopsie, good thing I can see the glue. Okay, I'm using my finger again to make sure it's at the edge. Okay, so that's why you need the gusset, is because of these flaps. So now I'm going to go over an inch. I'll just go from the 14 to the 13. Okay, so now, see, so this one, it's going to go on like this, and when you pull it down, you got to make sure this is directional. It does go much faster putting it together once you already have the pattern paper on there. Piece of cake. Okay, so 14, oh, that is over too far. I'm gonna have to, shoot, I'm gonna have to bump them right up against each other. That was not what I wanted to do, but it's too late now. So there's more side on this than there is over here. Sassafras, so don't go an inch, go a little bit shorter. I must not have done my math correctly, unfortunately. And I don't want to take it off. As long as they don't get in the way of one another. But see, yeah, maybe it'll look like it's about the same being the gusset. I don't know. Too late now. So for the top then, it's going to be easy. I'm just going to turn my book upside down because you just have to line them up with the pages that are already there. And they are a little bit shorter. I mean, the bottom's shorter, so it won't get in the way. Okay. So I guess I would have moved mine over instead of an inch. We should have done closer to 3/4 of an inch. Make sure that goes under. Okay. And you have to make sure that it goes under this flap too. You don't want it to get stuck on that. All right, and the next one, so when I'm putting this on, I'm making sure I slide it underneath that one in case I don't want it to get that, I don't want that to be in the way. Okay, so it'll be like that. Okay, I want to make sure it lines up, covers the other page. Get rid of that excess glue. And I always, even though I use my hand and the dried wet wipe, I still go back with that Teflon burnishing tool. Okay, I don't know what paper I'm gonna put underneath yet, but you'll need a full sheet. And I haven't cut that yet. We can do that later. And then these go together. I'm gonna glue this slider. I wanna double check that it fits before I glue it. And it does. Okay, so we can go ahead and glue this. This was the 1.5 by 3 3/4 inch piece, and we had scored it at 1, and I think it was 2 1/8 if I remember correctly. So it does fit, so we can glue it shut. And I'll go back and paper that later. But I'll put it on so I don't lose it, and it will keep it from flapping around. And I may end up corner rounding these, I don't know yet. We'll see how well it closes. It actually might be okay. Okay, so then once you go back and embellish, so cute. Okay, see how fast this is going? Now we are ready for, was that just page 1? Yep, that was just page 1. So the front of page 2. Okay, so open your flap. You're gonna have a full sheet on the bottom. I'm gonna use this scenic one in the city. But before we can put this down, we're using these as kind of closures to keep the doors closed. And what's gonna happen is these are gonna go back to back, okay? And so they're gonna go, I'm gonna center it. So when you open it, you're gonna see that green. So I'm probably gonna end up putting maybe a little pocket to cover this up just with paper, the pattern paper, not with the cardstock. Okay, but I have to put on, I'm just gonna put these here to get a general idea of where I wanna put these cards. Now they do have a little bit of, they have the 1/8 inch gusset. So I wanna put this probably about there. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue that. So we have to do these first. Okay, so again, it's gonna be about right like that. So about right there. Okay, there's one. And then the other one, I want to just kind of space it. This time I'm going to put it up top. And how much room did I have there? Let's see. So I want this to be about the same on this side. So about right there. And we don't want to go over, so it looks like it's about 3/4 of an inch down. We don't want to go over the score or the flap. Okay, about right here. That looks about right. And then close the flap to make sure it doesn't get in the way, where it looks like we're good. And then open it up and give it a burnish on the inside too, and then wipe up that extra glue. So now we put the full piece down, and then we can put the doors on top of it. That's why we have to put a piece of paper for like a pocket. So let's go ahead and do that. So this has already been measured. Our pages are 9.5, so I cut it at 9 3/8, And our pages are 8 inches tall, so I did 7 7/8. Some people do 1/4 of an inch instead of a 1/8. It's just whatever you like better. Sometimes I do it 1/8, sometimes 7th. Just depends on if I want to see more of the paper in the background. Okay, come on, glue. Dang it. Just when I thought I had a solution to that glue getting clogged. It'll work for a while and then it just does the same thing. There is no real solution, I don't think. Now it's coming out good. Okay. Let's center this. Okay. Give it a good burnish like always. Okay. So we want to center these. So we have the 1/2 inch to the center, and you can measure or you can eyeball, and I am going to eyeball. So it looks like it's about 3/4 of an inch maybe. Yep, about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to do this one first. And I'll go back later and put a piece of paper over it and glue it on 3 sides to make it a pocket on top of this green 1/2 inch flap. Okay. Using my fingers as a guide to make sure I'm not going over. So I'm pretty sure you probably know what I'm talking about, but I'll just show you with a piece of scrap paper. I'll come back and glue on 3 sides like right here so that I can tuck things inside of there. I don't like to see that green. I don't really have a longer piece I can show you with. Well, maybe. Let's see. Nope, I don't. Well, yes, I do. But it won't be as tall. It'll be like 1 inch is all I'll do. About 1 inch. Maybe the soldier, maybe just 1 row of soldiers. I don't know. I'll go back and see. Okay, so now we can bump this one right up against the one we just put down. Again, I'm using my hand as a guide. We want it right up against there. Okay. And I might end up putting like a little paper clip with something on the end just to kind of make it stay down even more. I might end up doing that, some sort of paper clip. Okay, so then that opens like so, and then like so. Okay, we'll get those pockets on later, the strips of paper. So we're ready for the back of the page. And this is the 2 that are 8 by 6. So you're going to want seam binding because we're going to put that on underneath the little card. So I just put a 4 by 6 and cut it to size and just did this side. We're going to end up gluing 3 sides so that we can put a tag down behind. So because I want to stick something underneath, I'm not going to put my ribbon. Well, I guess I still could. Yeah, I still can. I don't think it'll get stuck. Okay, so let's glue this. We have to glue the main piece down first on this one. So again, I went 9 5/8 by 7 7/8. Once you get all these papers together, it looks so much cuter. I mean, when you see them individually, they're cute too, but when you start mixing and matching, it's adorable. And then once you start going back and adding your embellishments and your brads and your ephemera, chipboard stickers, it is so cute. And you might have something in your stash that you add. Okay. Looking to make sure it's the same distance before I push down too hard. That looks good. So because I want to put tags in there, I was going to put one up higher and one down lower, but I think I'll put them at the same distance from the bottom so that I can put a tag in both of them. And it'll look probably more uniform. Okay. So, see, I was going to do this. But in order to put tags, I probably should do this. It'll look better once the tags are in there. Okay, but I don't want these flapping open, so that's where the seam binding comes in. So if we glue this down flat enough, it shouldn't get in the way of putting a tag in there. So let's see, I'll tie it and then I'll tell you about how long this is. So about here. I did that really in a fast way, but okay, so let's measure this. And I'd rather it be too long than too short. So this is 12. I actually did about 24 inches. So I'm going to find the center and I am going to run, I'm just eyeballing this where I want it. I don't care if it's exactly in the middle. Okay. I'll let that dry and I'll get the other one ready. I probably don't need 24, but do the same thing. Find the center of your ribbon. And I should probably put these side by side so I know where to put the glue for this one. Let's go ahead and tie these so that they're, let me let that one dry for a second. I'm gonna go ahead and tie it. And I don't tie very well. As much as I tie, you would think I would be an expert by now, but I'm not. I can tie my shoe fine, but so I'll probably go back and trim this. Okay, and I'll do this one too. You can glue the whole thing down if you want. I want it to be a pocket. Oh, for Pete's sake, I'm not going to do this one right. Ugh. Okay, well, it'll work for now. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go down here and make sure that you have about the same space on either side. Probably like this amount. Okay, so I'll glue this one down first. So just on 3 sides, not at the very top. Go right over that ribbon. Okay, and let's go about right there. And because my paper has lines on it, it's kind of easier to make sure it's straight. If I put the paper in the background on straight, that is. Okay. And then I still have to decide what I want to do on the inside front cover and back cover. I haven't decided yet. It goes from the side. Okay, and now I'll just eyeball this, put my glue on 3 sides. I hope I don't regret not putting tape over that ribbon so that something gets stuck. I probably should have done something now that I think about it. Okay. Looks about right. Really putting my elbow grease into it. I slip my hands under there and get the glue out. And let me just give this a second with a clothespin on the corners. And I don't think it'll reach. I don't think it'll reach as far as it should. Nope, close. I'll just hold it. Ugh. Okay. So that is 1 and 2. We are ready for 3. So page 3, the front is the 4x5, 5x4, and 5x2. And this is what I'm using for the base. And I am going to put a mat over here. So before we can put this base piece down, we have to put this on. And I was going to center it. I don't like it in the center. I'm actually, oh, I didn't glue that down. I'm actually going to put it on the side here, like this on the far right. I liked that better. So before I could put this on, I want to put my little baby pocket on down at the bottom. And I like to cover the 1/2 inch if I can with pattern paper. So I usually attach the pocket piece first, then go back and put the background, you know, behind the pocket on the pattern paper last on the back. Okay. Now we can put this, I just cut apart to size, and it doesn't have to go all the way to the bottom of the pocket. About like so. So I strategically cut that one so I could see the soldiers, or the nutcrackers, whatever you want to call them. Slide that under before you push it down. Make sure it's even on both sides. And I got a lot of glue everywhere. Just gonna take my fingernail and wipe it off that way too. Now I did ink all my papers. I don't know if I told you that before, but I did do my inking before I put the paper on. So then that's gonna go here, and then this is a flap, and again, this will stay down when you put a tag in. And I did already cover the back. So I'll put the pocket on first. Nope, that's a lie. I'm gonna have to put, let's see, if I do, maybe I'll attach it like this, around like that. So I'm gonna do it that way. So one side is tucked underneath the pattern paper and one isn't. That doesn't bother me. If it does you, you don't have to do it that way. So I'm gonna put glue on the outside and then on these two insides. I've never done it that way before, but let's see how it goes. And then what I say, the inside. Then we can just slide it into place. So I just want to make sure that I do the bottom and the outside first. Just going to tuck that. Looks like it's on there the right way. And now I gotta give this a burnish on the front. So when we put this down, we're gonna have a little bit of green on this side, so we wanna make sure that we line this up. I guess I could put this on the orange paper too. I'm gonna do that. I'll just glue this to the back. That way I know they're gonna line up. Now they do overlap a little bit, but that's okay. Because this, well, I don't really want to cover that pocket though. I think I'm gonna go higher. Will that make a difference? I'm talking to myself out loud. Give me a second here. Because that did take away a little bit of, by putting it on the paper, it did take away some of my measurements. If I go to the top here, it's gonna be close, but I think it'll work. Yeah, I'll just have to make sure this goes down further. Okay, so I'm gonna actually glue this to the base page. Wish me luck. I hope they line up. I'm gonna turn this. It's kind of hard for me to see, so I'm gonna look, and I'm just gonna go almost all the way to the edge, but not quite, because I have to remember there's some edge on the paper that I laid down. Okay, that looks like it goes all the way to the top, so that's good. Okay. And now I'm going to put this down like so. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Okay. So let me put glue all the way around the edges. Especially those corners. We don't want any lifting. You never know. Do I put too much glue on? Not enough? I don't know. I want it to lay flat. This is a big piece of paper. Now my glue is getting clogged. Okay, that'll work. I'll leave that flap up so it's out of the way. I'm gonna turn this the other way before I push down. Okay. My mat, I believe I did the white one I'm going to put on. I think that's 4 1/4 by 6, I think. I did 6 instead of 6 1/4 to save paper. So you can always trim your picture a little bit. It's close. Yikes. Let me see. Yeah, no. I am going to end up trimming this, I have a feeling. Because I want to be able to put a tag in here. And oh, wait. No, that'll work. I can still put a tag here because I forgot I put a pocket there. Ta-da! Okay, that'll work. I'm stressing over nothing. Okay, and then this, I'm just going to put right here. Okay. You can corner round it if you want, which I think I'm going to on this one. And then I'll go back and put like chipboard pieces on, like I said. I have a lot of ribbon that I got in my design team package that I can add some decoration with the ribbon. And I still do want to cut, I'll cut something out still and put on the edges here and there on those flaps, because there is a lot of green showing on those. I wonder why they made it so much bigger, or the mat so much smaller than the base, so that you have so much showing. I think that's what that's how it's used in the uniquely designed stuff. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, the back of page 3. This is the angles. So I'll go over, in case you don't know how to do the, how to mat. So I'm going to do these the same way. I'm going to wrap this around the pattern paper. And then this one's a little bit shorter. I am going to end up cutting this piece off, I think, so that it can rest on the inside. Or do I want that on the outside? I think I want it on the outside. I still think I'm going to cut it off to get rid of bulk. Does it? Well, maybe that looks okay. Yeah, it'll work. Okay, I'm going to do that. Like I said, I've already inked my paper, so I'm going to put glue on the inside of my 1/2 inch so I can wrap it around that other paper. Oh, glue. Gonna be the death of me. Come on. I'm getting a bunch of gunk at the end. That could be why. So don't push down until you're sure it's lining up right. So usually I would put the pockets on first and then slide this down, but I'm kind of liking doing it like this. That way I don't have to fight with the paper so much. Yeah. So because this was after we did our angle cut, this pocket was 8 long and 5 high. So I cut out a rectangle that was 4 7/8 by 7 7/8 and just cut it on the diagonal. But do be careful if you have directional paper. And then this was 5 by 5, so I cut out a 4 7/8 by 4 7/8. And then just sliced it on the angle. And it is awful, a little cattywampus, but I'll probably put some decorative something here in the corner where they meet. And maybe, I don't mind that it's not symmetrical, but I might still add something to kind of put a little spin on it, I guess. Okay. That'll hold a lot of inserts. I'm going to actually put this upside down so I can see if I'm getting oh, I gotta put this on first, don't I? So let's put glue on the inside 1/2 inches. Okay. So I'm just sliding that down. And before I push, I'm just making sure that it's all the way to the bottom and the edge. Oh, that would be upside down. So when I put this on, I just want to make sure I have the same border, top and bottom. Don't go over my score. Okay. These big pieces take a lot of glue. I don't think I've made a book bigger than, I've never done an 11 by 11. I kind of want to, but I just have never done it. Okay, that looks like enough. I gotta turn it around, make sure it's okay on the bottom. big burnishes because it is a lot thicker. Especially on this edge. And I did not go all the way down on the page because it's 1/8 of an inch up from the bottom of the hinge. Okay, that'll hold a lot of nice pictures. Page 4. Almost done with the pages, and then we got to go to the inside covers and the outside covers. This next page is super easy. It is a belly band, and we're just going to put a pocket here on the end. So again, I already put my pattern paper on. So I'm just going to attach this. This is going to go across the center, and then I'll be able to put a tag. So let's get our glue on here. And again, you can tuck a lot in a belly band, and you can get a paper clip. You can put a stopper on the bottom, which is what I'm going to do with one of the chipboard stickers so that the things don't fall through. And I'm just taking it all the way to the end. Okay. I could have saved paper by putting this pocket on first and then tucking the paper underneath. And usually that's what I do, but I wanted to get everything as prepped ahead of time as I could. Okay. We want it all the way to the right. Don't go over. That should work. I am going to find the halfway mark so that I can kind of get an idea of where to put the belly band. So I'm going to find the 4-inch mark. And our belly band is 4 inches, so I'm going to mark that at 2, and I'll go back and erase it when I need to. I think I can see it. So I'm just going to put one side down first. I got to burnish this a little bit more. Hold on. Okay. Make sure that that'll close and not get in the way. Yeah. So I'll put a stopper down here, something that has a little bit of dimension so that things don't fall through. Now I could put this down and just not glue it all the way and then tuck this underneath. Some people find it hard to put the paper on underneath. If I do it now like this, it might be easier. I'm gonna do it afterwards. I'll be able to do it. That's really close to that score line. Okay, now, did I ink this? No, I did not. I'm glad I caught that before I put it on. I'm using the Sepia, is that what it's called? I don't think it's a brand that Tammy carries anymore, but she did for a while. I think it's the, I'll look in just a second. What's it called? It's the Prima ink, and it's called Sepia. Okay. So now we'll just slide this down, and instead of putting the glue on first, I'm going to slide it down, and I'm just going to put glue on the edges here, so I don't have to worry about making a mess, trying to get it to line up, and then that paper still won't go anywhere. Okay. That works out good. I still need to get those cloth. I see some people using a different cloth to wipe up the excess glue, and I don't know what they are. I have a black cloth, but ugh, it's gross. It's crunchy. I got to get it washed. So I was looking, somebody was using something else. I thought, oh, I need to try that, but I haven't got around to getting it yet. I don't even know what it was, but I saw people using it. So if you have a recommendation, let me know what I can use instead of these wet wipes. And you just want to make sure that the corners are down real well. Again, you don't want that lifting. And then the fun part is I like to go back then and embellish. Add a bunch of fun stuff. And I have the, if you didn't see the haul, I have the chipboard stickers and the flat back brads and some ribbon. So I'll have some fun stuff to put on there. You can cut out things from the paper. Okay, last page. How thick is it getting? It's gonna be pretty good by the time we add our pictures. All right, so the last page, I ended up, I forgot to tell you, I ended up adding some more. So let me show you what I did. I thought it needed something. It was kind of boring. So on this flap, the one that's 5.5 by 8, and we scored it at half, so it's 5 inches wide, I went and cut a 6-inch piece, 6 by 4, and I scored it on 3 sides, and I'm going to put a pocket down here so that I can again hold more stuff like that. And then I added more pockets on the other pocket. So let me get this put together, and then I'll show you what I did to add to the other one. And you don't have to do it, obviously, but in case you're wondering how I got those pockets when I didn't give the measurements to begin with. Okay. All the way to the bottom. Check the sides. And then because I'm putting the pocket on first, when I cut my paper for behind the pocket, I don't have to go all the way down to the bottom because nobody will see it. So I'm just gonna tuck this. Did I ink it? Yep. I'll just tuck this underneath like so. Okay, let's glue that down. Okay. And tuck underneath. Looks good. And that's going to go on the far right hand side, but before I do that, I did already go ahead and put something on the back. So then let's go to the 3.5 inch pocket that when we scored it, it ended up being, it was 4 by 9, so now it's 3.5 by 8. And I did, wait a minute, why did I do that? Did I put, was that for this? No. Is this a, why did I do that for? It's not, I thought it was a flap, I think, and I made this to go, that was dumb. I'll use it someplace else. Huh. Yeah. So what I did was I made a pocket for here. So if this is 3.5, this piece was 4.5 by 4. And I scored on 3 sides, and that's going to go down here. But then I wanted another pocket. So I cut another piece that was 4.5 by 3, and I measured up 1 inch from the bottom and cut it off on the sides. So I measured up 1 inch so that I can slide it down and it will stop where it needs to stop. Does that make sense? Okay, and I angle cut it so it'll slide underneath this pocket easily. So it was 4.5 by 3, scored it half on each of the long ends, angle cut or measured up 1 inch from the bottom and snipped straight across, and then I angle cut it so it's going to slide down easier. So let's go ahead and put this pocket on. Okay, and we want to make sure that we're putting the pocket on. So we want the opening on our right, because it's going to go over here. Okay. And so then, where'd it go? That yellow piece. I just had it. Where'd it go? Oh, right here. So this will know when to stop. So we're going to glue the 1/2 inch pieces to the back, and it's going to stop right where it needs to into that bottom pocket. So we have a double layer pocket, and then we'll put paper behind this one. So you just need to put glue on the 1/2 inch strips. Slide that in. And then glue on it. So then the pocket goes all the way down to the bottom. So you can put longer things in there. And then I just cut a piece of, did I ink this? I think I did. This is going to go underneath like so. So then we'll have a pocket, a flap with a pocket, and then again, when you put things in here, it'll keep that flap, prevent it from opening. You know what? I know what I'm going to do, I think. I'll show you. So let's go ahead and put this no. I want to do the side door first. Don't go all the way to the bottom of the hinge. Lift it up a little bit. Open this, flatten it. think I know what I'm going to do with that piece. I might not. I don't know. I think I cut my ice skating paper too big because I was thinking that was, the other one was a flap instead of a pocket. I bet I did. I bet I made it the whole width. I sure did. So I'm going to put this on next. Oh, I gotta glue the red down first. In the comments, tell me, what do you do first? Do you do your page construction and put it in the book and then go back and paper? Do you do what I'm doing this time and putting the paper on first and then putting it onto the base page? What works best for you? Do you do all your stuff on the page and then put the page in at the very end? There's no right or wrong way. I'm just kind of curious. Okay, so this will go over here. I'm actually going to turn my book so I can see that I'm putting it on in the right spot. Putting glue on the 3 1/2-inch sides. Okay. And the opening goes toward the inside, so the opening is facing the hinge. Got a little bit of glue squeezing out there. So then this I need to cut down because I have it too long. Is that too loud? That might be too much. You know what? I'm gonna put a blue mat on there. I gotta lift this up. The glue is oozing and it's sticking. There we go. Maybe. It's not cooperating. There. So I don't need to go all the way to the bottom. And I think by adding a blue mat, it will calm it down. So I'm going to trim this down to about 6 1/2. And I've already inked it, and I cut on the side that wasn't inked. There we go, like so. I really liked this paper, the ice skates, but I was afraid I don't like to use the cut-aparts on the back because I want cut-aparts. Come on, there we go. But they give you 2. I have 2 of each sheet, so. Poke it with a pin. Are you kidding me right now? Come on, I just poked it with the pin. I don't want the other stuff. Oh my gosh, am I running out of glue? Is that why? I just filled it not too long ago. I guess I am doing a lot of gluing. Okay, good enough. don't go over the, there we go, the score of the page. So with this, oh, that fits, kind of. Yeah, it does. But, then you can't see that. Put it in here. It does, but then it's going to fall in there. Do I want to put this? No. Maybe I'll put on the different, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm just going to center this so you can still see plenty of the ice skates. I could put another mat on here of white. Let me see if that would be too much. I might end up doing that. But then you can see by putting things in here, it'll keep that flap closed. Okay, so the question is, where do I guess I could tuck this in here as one of my inserts. Maybe I'll do that. I could do this. Nope, it's too, when you put the glue on the sides, you got to go smaller. So this is too wide. I must have put the glue down too much on the sides. Oh, I still need to put paper on the bottom of this one. Maybe like this. Maybe. I'll just put it there for right now. And so now I just needed the front and the back, and I'm probably most likely just going to do something pretty basic. It might just even just be a pocket. I don't think it'll be a flap, but who knows? So come back. I'll come back and I'm going to go ahead and think about what I'm going to put on the covers. Give this a chance to dry a little bit, make some mats, decide what I'm going to do on the cover, and then we'll continue on. I'll start embellishing. Okay? All right. We'll get this done pretty quick here. All right, I finally decided what to do with the front and back cover. So again, with the dies that are the Uniquely Creative, there's a die that looks like this. And so I am cutting 2 for the front and 2 for the back in green. Now this one doesn't have the matting die to go inside. So I'm also going to cut, I'm running kind of low on paper, and I want to have enough to go back and put tags in and stuff. So I'm going to cut one pattern piece just for the front and leave the back green. And they're going to be 4 inches tall when I'm done. So you'll see some green at the top and the bottom, but not the sides. It'll make more sense when I show you. But so after I cut these, I did score them at a 1/2 inch so that I can have them be flaps. Okay, so 1/2 inch, and I'm going to put one on the top and one on the bottom. So after, let me kind of get my stuff out of the way here. So after you score them, go ahead and burnish. Now when I did the die, some of my paper was kind of thin, but I only needed it to be 4 inches, okay? So when I attach it, I'm gonna look to see that there's about 1/4 of an inch down here, and then you see that border at the top. So I'll glue that. The back is gonna stay green, okay? So let me go ahead and put some glue on here. You Guys, I need some help with this glue. What do I need to do so that every time I use this glue, it doesn't become clogged? Art glitter glue is the best stinking glue out there, but every time I try and use it, it clogs terrible. And I got this new little device thinking, oh, this will do the trick, and it doesn't. So, I mean, it does for a while, but then it stops. And I know I've got plenty of glue in here, so I'm getting a little frustrated. Am I holding it wrong? Like, is there a certain way I have to... This is so frustrating. Well, maybe I have enough glue on here. I don't know. It's gonna have to be because I'm losing my patience. Okay. So again, I'm going to look to make sure. I could bump it up against here to kind of use that as a guide. Okay. Give it a burnish. And then we're going to attach it to the top and the bottom. We'll have to center it on the page. So I'm going to use my Tim Holtz centering ruler. Okay, and I'll do the same with this one, only it is a solid. This will be the top flap. I wonder if I can get any glue out of here. This one's almost empty, but I've been filling that Nouveau bottle with art glitter glue. So this is about empty. Ho hum. Well, let's see. I have this. Let's see if I can get anything out of here. It's still the art glitter glue. But maybe this is not as... Maybe I need to wash the inside of the tip. I don't know. Okay, letting it go to the bottom here. Look, it's not going either. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, that's about it. I gotta just keep going back and forth. Sorry, fast forward through this part because this is not what you want to see. And then it'll work for a little bit and then it stops again. I don't know. Maybe I should just put some tape on here so you guys don't have to watch me fix the stupid glue 50 times. See, now here it comes. I gotta use it while it's coming. Okay, please let that be enough. It's gonna work. Okay. Sorry about that. So I'm gonna bump it up against here so that they line up. About 1/4 of an inch on the bottom and about the same on the top. Now I am punching a hole for the closure and putting some of the ribbon in that I got in my kit, my design team package, as my closure. And I was originally going to put these on the side, but if I put pictures in, I don't want them to fall out the bottom. So that's why I decided to go top and bottom. And I'll still go back and decorate these a little bit, but so let me show you how I attached these. So the cover is 9 3/4. So I'm getting my ruler and I'm going to get my pencil, which is right here. Okay, and I'm just going to look to see where, is it at 5, a little bit before 5, before 5. This is about the center, so I'm just going to put a little mark. And once I put one on, I don't need to worry about measuring the other one. I'll just line it up. And I believe this ends up being 8 inches long. So let's see, 4 on each, pretty close. Yeah. Okay, and I put a little line at the center of that one, and I'll go back and erase it. So then I'm just going to go all the way to the bottom, making sure that I've lined them up, because we have to put this on before we put on the paper, the base paper. Okay, line up my marks. Kind of use my finger as a guide to make sure it's all the way at the bottom. And we'll open it up and just make sure it's on there real solid. Okay, I'm going to flip my book upside down. And so I will put this on the top, and I just need to make sure that these two line up. And they'll be fine, okay. See, now it's working just fine. Ugh. Give a girl a break. Okay, so I'm just going to lightly put it on and not push down quite yet. Just want to make sure that they're lining up. And there we go. Okay, so I am going to, like I said, put holes for ribbon. And so I just took my ruler, and I can see the center because this is, the dies have the stitching, and there's a stitching piece right there at the end. So let me make sure. And I just put a pencil mark about where I wanted the hole. Okay, and I have my Crop-A-Dile adjusted so that I go the same depth down. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the top one. I just need, I'm gonna have to do this sideways. Okay, so I can see. Ugh. Okay, and then I have the hole punch, the circle punch from Country Craft Creations. I don't know if they still carry this, but it's kind of nice to have. It's this. So I cut out these to go around the hole. I'm gonna do the front, the top and the bottom. Okay, so now I just need to line this one up with the pencil, and again, I have to keep moving it because I can't see. I have the Crop-A-Dile set so that it goes the same depth down. Okay. So then I will glue the circle pieces on, and then I'm going to put the base paper on, and I'm going to tie it so that it stays shut like so. And then I'll go back and decorate the inside. All right, that's all I have for the tutorial. So go ahead, and if you haven't already, take a look at the walkthrough, and that will help you to see how I did my decorating. But this is a great way to use pretty much the full package. I had 2 of each sheet. It's the Christmas in the City by Carta Bella. And so check it out. This is a great size album for Christmas. I appreciate you stopping by my channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and there will be more tutorials to come. Thanks. Have a great day crafting.